I'm the host. All right. Assalamu alaikum and good morning, everyone. Are you guys there?
Hello.
Walaikum
Morning.
assalam.
Nobody wants to turn your cameras on, huh? Everyone's going to be hiding today. You just got up? Is that why? Just rolled out of bed? Okay. All right. So welcome to week 9 of our class. So this week we're going to be discussing on something related to the digital world of youth. Okay. We're going to focus on youth and industrial revolution 4.0. Okay. So today's lecture is actually based on a talk that I gave at a conference on this topic. Okay, so I'm going to present a similar version of that talk that I gave. It's not very long, so I don't think we may not even need the whole 2 hours today. All right, we may be able to break a little early, but we'll see. But of course, it's a very important and relevant topic to you guys as well, since you will be graduating and moving into the world of IR 4.0, 4.0. So have you all heard of Industrial Revolution 4.0? Is that familiar to you guys, the term?
Yes.
Yes. What is your understanding of Industrial Revolution 4.0? Anyone want to share? Who knows? Anyone? Nobody knows?
It is a new revolution which uses more machines and sensors like QR codes and text to identify different products.
Okay, so it uses more technology. Okay.
Mm.
All right. So technology to do what? To communicate only?
No, it's production machines.
Production machines. Okay. All right. Okay. Anyone else? Thanks, Hanim. Anybody else? What is your understanding of Industrial Revolution 4.0? Nobody else has anything to share? Wow. Okay. You guys are really quiet today. Okay. Well, let's get started. And we'll discuss all these issues in a minute. Let me share my screen here. Okay. So today's class, just a reminder, remember the attendance link is now at the top of the Pucha Blast class page, yeah? So please make sure to go and click on that and do what you need to do there. All right, don't forget that. Okay, and then, so lecture, we're gonna talk about, as I said, youth development 4.0, IR 4.0. And then after we're gonna do that, after that, we're gonna do a very short exercise, a reflection exercise. So I'm gonna ask you to reflect on yourselves in relation to this topic, okay? But we'll get into that in a little while, all right? The other thing I forgot, I did not get a chance to complete the grading or the marking for your McFarland assignments, so I apologize for that. Inshallah, hopefully by next week, I'll have that completed for you, okay? Just so at least so you know how you did, all right? So my apologies on that one, okay? So let me get started here. All right, so the title of the lecture is called Beyond Skills, okay? Youth Development in the Fourth Industrial Revolution, all right? So as you can see from the picture, IR 4.0 is being sort of presented as a massive change to how we work, okay? So Hanim, you touched on you touched on it in just now when I asked. Yes, it has a lot to do with technology. It has a lot to do with the use of technology to produce things, the things that we rely on in our everyday lives. Okay, so it's really about changing the way we work, right? From everything from communication to production to dissemination. You know, how things get spread around and distributed to people. So from A to Z, really, this massive influx of technology is expected to and is already changing the way we do things, especially in terms of economic production. Okay, so of course for you guys, we're going to be entering the world of work very soon, within the next few years. It's very important that you understand it and you understand what it takes to really thrive in this kind of environment. Okay, so young people have to really understand that. And what kinds of, so the question in today's lecture is, what kind of education, what kind of experiences do young people need to thrive in the fourth industrial revolution, right? So how should we be thinking about youth development in the context of the fourth industrial revolution? And that's really what we're going to talk about. Okay, so the question is, with the impending fourth industrial revolution, what will it take to prepare youth to be healthy, productive citizens? Okay, so again, with this massive change on the horizon, already in effect in many industries, what is it going to take to prepare youth? So maybe you've heard of some of these things. People are already talking about what kinds of skills, for example, you guys as youth are going to need to really thrive and to be successful in the fourth industrial revolution. That's what we're going to look at. Okay, so the first part we're going to talk about is the fourth industrial revolution and youth well-being. Okay, so how does it affect young people's well-being? First of all, what is the fourth industrial revolution? Let's get a clear picture first before we talk about anything else. We have to always first be clear about how we're defining these things. Okay, so this is for you guys to really understand. It's very important that whenever you're going to venture into any kind of project or program, first be clear about what it is that you are talking about. Okay? So be clear about your definitions of things. For example, if I asked you the question, what is development, right? So you always hear our policymakers, our politicians talking about national development, right? Malaysia wants to be a developed nation. What does that mean, that word development, right? If I ask you that question, most people are going to give different answers. Okay, so being clear about the definitions of these things is very important so that we know exactly what it is that we're striving for, that we're trying to achieve. Okay, so when we talk about Industrial Revolution 4.0, what is it? Okay, so here is a definition from the European Youth Forum. Okay, so this is a definition that relates to something that youth need to understand or should understand. So the fourth industrial revolution borrows strengths from the physical, digital, and biological worlds to rethink how steps taken to deliver a product or service to market are organized. Okay, so it's mostly dealing with economics. It's dealing with economics. Various digital and emerging technologies make this possible, including, and this is what Hanim was talking about just now, cloud computing, robotics, additive manufacturing, biotech, Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, and blockchain. Okay, so these are the different types of technologies that are changing the way that we really do economics. Okay, so this is essentially what the fourth industrial revolution is talking about, all right? But it means changes to the physical, digital, and biological worlds, right? And so that's a lot of change, and that's essentially going to affect how business is conducted and how people are going to interact in the world of economics. Okay, and it's going to affect everyday life. Okay, it's going to affect everyday life as well. Okay, so as you can see here, now this is something that maybe you're not familiar with, but why is it called the fourth industrial revolution? Well, prior to the fourth industrial revolution. Obviously, since it's the fourth, there were 3 prior industrial revolutions, okay? And the first one, as you can see here, around the 1700s was the first industrial revolution, and that was brought on by the advent of the steam engine, okay, the train. Why was that considered a revolution? Can anybody tell me? Why was that considered an industrial revolution? The advent of steam, and particularly the steam engine, the train, really. Who can tell me? Why would that be such a big deal? Anyone want to share? What do you think? Why would steam, and specifically the steam engine, constitute or be the foundation for an industrial revolution? What's the big deal about steam?
Because mostly before we have steam in power, all the things are powered by water, humans, wind, horse.
Okay. All right. So as a result, it what, honey? What's the
Um,
result of that?
it allowed mostly if we were only um, if things were only to be powered by water, so maybe the factory would be by the river, but because of steam power, it allowed the factories to be located anywhere.
Okay. All right. Well, at that time, there were really no factories per se. Okay, because the factories came about actually in between the first and second industrial revolution. We start to see the growth of factories, and it's because of these new power or energy sources like steam, and then after that, electricity. Okay, so steam, and especially the steam engine, allowed for the rapid transportation of goods and people. Okay, so before this, horse and buggy, right? People had to travel by horse and buggy. It was very slow, right? And they couldn't transport massive amounts, large amounts of goods, right, in short periods of time. So economics is all about speed. It's all about reach, about being able to transport things quickly over large areas, right? That's what really facilitates economics. So with the steam engine and trains, it allowed both people and products and raw materials to be transported very much quicker, right, over large areas. Okay, so it expanded economic activity tremendously. Okay, and so that's why the first industrial revolution is considered around the time of the steam engine. Okay, it allowed for that. Okay, so yeah, you're on the right track, honey. And then the second industrial revolution was of course the discovery of and really implementation of electricity. And I think that one is pretty obvious. Electricity allows us to do so many things, right? And so it really facilitated the growth of factories, right? And so forth. Okay, so electricity, of course, powers machines. It lights so people can work at night. There's so many things that electricity does, but it's essentially it just facilitated all that industrial activity. It multiplied it tenfold, allowing for much more productivity and output. Okay, so now let's move on. Now the third, what's considered the third industrial revolution is the age of computing. age of computing. So with the advent of the computer, which really got going in the 1970s, really, okay, of course, that's completely changed how we work, right? And you and I are sitting here talking to each other, having class over a computer screen. Okay, that's part of this industrial revolution. Okay, this third industrial revolution. Computing allowed for all this additional industrial activity, right? And so now we have um, com computers all over the world. It's a major it's a major product, right? All the different technologies related to computers. Okay, and it's completely changed once again how we work, right? How we work. My generation, I'm considered Generation X, and so I sort of saw how growing up how computers changed our world, especially how we do things, how we work, and so forth. So I'm sort of a product of that third industrial revolution. You guys are sort of living in the age of the fourth industrial revolution as it's taking place. Okay, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. And so this is taking computing to the next level, to a much higher level of technology. Okay, so you have all these things now: artificial intelligence, 3D printing, biotech, robotics. All these things are going to continue to change the way we work. Right, change the way we work. Now, so that's a brief overview of the four industrial revolutions. Okay, so now when we talk about our education system and youth, especially youth development, we are still educating in these two paradigms, okay? So our education system is still built around a second and third industrial revolution framework, right? The way we educate. Can anybody tell me what that means? What does that mean that our education system is still working in these two industrial revolutions? Somebody other than Hanim? Hairul? Hairul, have anything to say? Hairul? What do you think about our education system? How is education still working at the level of second and even third industrial revolution? Any idea?
Wait, my mind quite blank this morning.
Okay, it's okay. I'm gonna just call people since I'm not getting volunteers, so it's forcing me to ask you guys. Okay, so anyone else want to guess? How about Suhaila? Suhaila, can you tell me why? What do you think? Suhaila, are you there? All right, I think starting next class, I'm gonna ask you guys to turn on all your monitors again, because it seems like you're not even around. You're not there. Anybody else? Desmond, what do you think? Are you there, Desmond?
Yes, Doctor.
Prof, can I answer?
Sure.
I think that the second and third industrial revolution is currently in our education system, because that is what we are currently using now. It's electricity. The education system in Malaysia is still relying on electricity and all the computing things. And we
Okay.
haven't really go to the fourth industrial revolution.
Yeah. Okay. So don't. Okay. Yeah, that's true. Don't think so much about what they're using, but think about what they're educating for. So, for example, you go to school now and you're being educated for what kind of outcomes, what kind of, they're preparing you for what? Are they preparing you guys to be able to work with 3D printing?
No.
No. How about robotics? How about quantum physics? How about nanotech? Not really, right?
No.
How about entrepreneurship?
Mm, yes.
Yes, you think so?
Yeah.
Okay. So like people talk about now about the need for our students, our young people to be creative, right? All this creativity, creativity, creativity. But are you guys taking a lot of classes in arts to help you develop your creativity?
No.
The most artistic, the most creative people in the world are artists, right? But so why are we not providing more arts classes? If really we want our students to be artistic, creative, you would think that, well, we should have them take a lot of arts classes, right? Because that's where they develop their creativity, right?
Malaysian parents always think that going into science, a pure science class, would make their child outshines better,
Right.
I
Yeah.
guess.
Yeah. No, that's true. Yeah. So again, but see, that's the whole point is that that mindset is still stuck in the second and third kind of industrial revolution, where the expectation is you graduate and there'll be a nice sort of factory company job waiting for you, right? That is involved in producing something. Okay. So that's still very much a second and third industrial revolution mindset, right? We have not really upgraded or changed our education system to prepare young people for this new fourth industrial revolution, which you're going to see in a minute. I'm going to show you in a minute what kind of expectations and outcomes young people need in this fourth industrial revolution. Okay, so we're still working in a very old paradigm. In fact, if you look at the way our schools, and not just in Malaysia, this is in the US, this is throughout the world, really, the public or the government schools, especially, the way that they are organized and structured, for example. Why do you guys have all these big classes, right? And you have very fixed times for a class, like every 45 minutes, the bell rings, you have to go to the next class, and then you go to the next class. It's a very controlled environment, right? Why is there so much control in school? Right? Well, if you look at how the education system was developed, it was developed to produce good factory workers who are obedient to authority. They listen, they get instructions, they follow those instructions. That's basically what you do in school, right? You get instructions and you follow the instructions, right? Even to this day, that's the way schools operate because they were preparing students to work in factories, to work in government jobs. Okay, that's still very much second and even third industrial revolution mindset. Okay, so schools today are still very much producing students for the previous industrial revolutions, not for the fourth industrial revolution. Okay, there's very little space or opportunity for students to be creative, to think on their own, to have a sense of autonomy, to choose what they want to study, to explore new areas, all these things, which is what the fourth industrial revolution requires. And so you can see that in terms of education, young people are not really being prepared for the fourth industrial revolution. That's a big problem. That's a big problem. Okay. Is that clear? Semua faham?
Yes.
Paham.
Thank you. And so what's the scenario? Well, in terms of economics, the scenario is troubling. It's troubling because we have a high percentage of the workforce in Malaysia, especially in Malaysia, Indonesia, in this Malay archipelago region is under 30 years old. We have a very young population, right? And so is that an asset or a burden? Okay. Some people will look at it and say it's an asset. We have all these great young people with lots of energy and lots of creativity, and they want to do a lot of good things. Others will say, oh my God, that's a big burden because we don't have enough jobs for them, right? So this high percentage of the youth workforce in this area can be looked at either as an asset or a burden. And depending on who you are, some look at it differently, right? So education and training for the future is a critical part of realizing this potential. Okay, so we want to look at young people as assets in IR 4.0 who are going to be able to really make major contributions to IR 4.0. We have to look at how we can help young people to realize their potential, all right? And so to this point, everyone's talking about skills, right? Skills. Young people need all these new skills, right? Skills. But is it really just about skills? That's the question. Okay. So according to the World Economic Forum, the result of this shift to IR 4.0 could be a net loss of over 5 million jobs in 15 major developed and emerging economies. So not even just like countries like Malaysia, but even in the developed countries, IR 4.0 could result in a lot of jobs lost. Why? Why do they expect that people are going to lose their jobs because of IR 4.0? Anybody know? Kenapa?
Because of the AI, artificial intelligence.
Yeah, that's one reason. Yeah, AI. Okay, so why is AI? Why is AI going to cause people to lose their jobs?
I
Okay.
think because less manpower is required, is needed.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So they're saying that, yeah, because if you have all this AI and all these robots, less need for people, right? So a lot of workers are going to lose their jobs. They're going to replace them with automated types of workers. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, when you have technology, you have less need for human workers, right? At least that's the way that people have thought a lot about this, right? Of course, there's counter arguments to that. You know, they say, well, but who's going to do all the programming of the machines? Who's going to do the maintenance for the machines? Who's going to build all these machines, right? So that's where they say, oh, we're still going to need human workers, right? So some are saying it's going to result in a lot of job loss. Some are saying, no, it's just going to shift the nature or the type of jobs that are needed, okay? So there's this sort of debate that goes on. So we need to build the right talent, skills, and attitudes for today and tomorrow. This is really critical, okay? So especially for young people, you need to know what it takes to be prepared for this coming IR 4.0. And as HRD students and as future HRD workers, you guys are going to be right in the thick of it because you're going to be working with the human beings that are going to be working with all this AI and all these new technologies. So you guys also have to have a very good idea about what IR 4.0 is all about and how it's going to affect people. Okay, so this is very relevant to you guys. Okay, so is it enough? So here's what they say are the need for IR 4.0 in terms of skills. Okay, here's the list. Okay, according to experts, they say the top 10 skills for all you workers going into industry now are the top 3: complex problem solving, critical thinking, creativity. Okay, and then 4 to 10 is people management. Okay, coordinating with others, emotional intelligence, judgment and decision making, service orientation, negotiation, and cognitive flexibility. Okay, now the question is, there's many questions, but the question is, are these all skills? What do you think? Do these all look like skills to you?
For me, it's not skill. It's a characteristic of the person.
Yeah, great, Hazik. Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you. Are these competencies or are these intelligences? So yeah, I agree, Hazik. They're a combination. They're not just skills. Some of these are competencies, some of these are intelligences. Like emotional intelligence is not a skill, right? But it's still something we can learn. It's still something we can improve at, but it's not necessarily a skill, right? Judgment and decision making. I mean, yeah, you can say decision making is a sort of skill, but I agree with Hazik. It relates to yourself, your maturity, your experience, right? And of course, usually people over time, they get better at decision making with more experience in doing it, right? Things like negotiation, yeah, that's a skill. You can learn how to negotiate. Okay, cognitive flexibility, not really a skill. Okay, again, it's like learning different ways of thinking in different situations. Okay, so there's a skill element to it, but it's more than just a skill. Okay, even creativity. I mean, I don't know if you can really call creativity a skill. You know, you can develop creativity, I think, to some degree, but creativity is something you can definitely learn, but it's not necessarily a skill. Okay, and then managing people, yeah, there are skills involved there as well, but it's more of a competency. So you can see here, this list of what you guys, what we all need to be successful in IR 4.0 is quite extensive, and it's different than in the past. Okay, so if this is the need, how are young people going to get these things? Okay, look at our current education system. The way that we educate youth, are we educating youth to provide these 10 things? For example, when you go to school, you know, in form 2 or form 3, are you going to classes to learn all these things?
Not. I think for me is form 1 and form 2 is very early to learn this thing.
Too early to learn these things. Okay, so Hazik, at what age or what level do you think is appropriate to learn these things?
Maybe after form 3 in form 4 or form 5.
Okay, so maybe actually
16 or 17.
what you're talking about is perfect, because form 3 is around what age? Umur berapa? Form 3. How old are you?
15.
Huh?
15.
15. What's the age of youth in Malaysia? What's the official age of youth in Malaysia? You guys should know this from your first half of the class. Do you remember?
15 to 30.
Exactly, 15 to 30. So like when you say 15, this is really the beginning of, in Malaysia at least, and in many parts of the world, 15 is really where youthhood begins. And what that really means is it's the age where you really become adults. You start to become adults. So it makes a lot of sense that you say around form 3, around 15, because these kinds of thinking skills and competencies and intelligences are very much related to the adult world. Yeah, these are very much adult related things. So I think it makes a lot of sense that you say 15. Okay. And so, but even if we think about form 3, form 4, form 5, are they doing a lot of this kind of things? Are they doing these kinds of things with students even in those years? You know, form 4, form 3, 4, 5, and above. I don't know. I mean, that's debatable, I guess, right? But are students graduating with all these 10 skills? Are they graduating from secondary school with all these 10 skills? Are they being prepared for IR 4.0? I think most people would say no, they're not. Okay, because again, our education system is still using an old paradigm, still educating for the previous industrial revolutions. Okay, so let's move on now to look at youth development in the age of 4.0. So one of the ways that we can begin to address this issue of that list of those 10 skills, I'm just going to call them skills for the sake of convenience, is to think about the role of the youth development sector. Okay, so the youth development sector, unlike formal education, deals with preparing young people for adulthood holistically. Okay, what do I mean by the youth development sector? Anybody know? Okay, so like formal education, you know, sekolah is of course part of youth development, but the youth development sector is bigger than just formal education. It includes what else? Anybody know? Sorry, I have some construction going on near my house. What is the youth development sector? Who can tell me? Anybody? Amir, are you there, Amir?
Yes, the
Do you know what the youth development sector means?
uh,
If it's not formal education or formal schooling, what is the youth development sector? You can just give me an example. Tak faham. It's okay. You tak faham lah. Anybody
tak
else?
faham.
Anybody else? Who knows? Have you heard of Persatuan Belia?
Get marah.
Huh?
Get marah.
What is that? Can you explain that? Oh, okay. Yeah, all right. So what can you explain to everyone what how do you pronounce it? Is it Giatmara or Giatmara? Amir? Giatmara is a vocational and technical program, right?
Yes. Vocational and technical program.
Okay. So yeah, so that's part of the youth development sector, sure. That's where young people acquire mostly vocational skills and technical skills. So that's a good example of one of the institutions in the youth development sector. Okay. Others are like youth associations, yeah, youth associations, any type of community-based programs for youth, sports programs for youth. Okay, so these are the non-formal education programs. Okay, non-formal education programs. That's considered the youth development sector. So any kind of training, any kind of persatuan belia, persatuan sukan, the sports programs, sports organizations, where their young people are developing some kind of skills, some kind of competencies that's outside of school. Okay, so we have this huge youth development sector that does all these things. And this is where young people tend to acquire that list of 10 things that we saw before. Okay, and they do it because they're involved in things like this, as you can see in these pictures here. They're involved in like decision making with adults, okay, involved in training in the community. They're involved in, negotiation, it could be anything. Program, any kind of outside programs, etc. Okay, so they are acquiring a lot of these different types of skills that they don't get in school. Okay, so outside of what they get in school. Okay, so for the youth development sector, it includes all these things, and you've seen this. I've showed this slide before. Okay, school is just the one slice of the pie at the top. You see school at the top, but all these other aspects of community are also contributing to young people's skill development in different ways. Okay, so youth groups, involvement in the media. Okay, Taman, Parks and Recreation. Maybe they work with the police, civic organizations. Okay, so all these can contribute to young people's skill development. All right. And so they do it through, and we talked about this previously in our previous weeks. Okay, what young people need to succeed are these. One way of thinking about it is the 6 C's that we talked about before. Okay, so the 6 C's are competence, confidence, connection, character, and caring, which leads to contribution. So the youth development sector outside of school is where young people acquire these different things. So they acquire different types of competencies. Okay, so Giatmara, what kind of competencies might they acquire, Amir? What kind of things do they learn in the Giatmara program? Sorry, can't hear you. Amir. there. If you want to write it, you can write it. Anybody else familiar with that program?
To develop their skill.
Yeah, what kind of skills? Hazik. Was it Hazik that said it? Yeah, Hazik. What kind of skills, I think? What kind of competencies are they developing in those in like GFR programs?
Like skill in wiring or air conditioning.
Right. So all those
Automotive.
technical skills, right? And those are very much related to what IR 4.0 is about, right? All this. So for example, they can easily learn from there. They can easily learn about things like robotics, you know, for example. So that's like the foundation to learn about all these different technologies that are coming around now. Okay, so they learn competencies. Okay, so those kind of programs, they learn certain type of competencies, technical type of competencies. Okay, and then from that, they may gain confidence. They may gain the confidence that they can thrive in the IR 4.0 world because they better understand it. They can work with it, right? They learn about the technologies. They learn how to fix those different types of technologies and stuff like that. So they gain confidence that they can do it. And then, of course, they gain connections through meeting other people, right? Meeting their fellow students, peers, meeting, you know, gurus and mentors and trainers. Okay, so they make a lot of important connections. They even might meet people in the industry that can help them to maybe get jobs later and stuff like that. Okay, so they make connections. It also helps to build their character. You know, they develop the character. You know, different types of positive character, hard work, you know, work ethic, and stuff like that. And hopefully, by being involved in the youth development sector, they also learn to be more caring in terms of caring about other people, caring about other people other than themselves, right? So they develop that sense of caring. And this is what leads to the overall contribution. They make a contribution to society. So if we look at what the youth development sector provides young people, we can see it provides several. It provides things that the schools don't provide, especially in relation to IR 4.0. Okay, and so what are the capacities needed to achieve these types of outcomes in IR 4.0? So specifically, when it comes to IR 4.0, people have talked about the importance of like Jack Ma, who you probably all know. He's the head of Alibaba in China. He's one of the world's richest men. But he said about IR 4.0, he said, teach young people those things that in 20 or 30 years, machines cannot do. Okay, so if we go back to that list of 10 skills before, you can see many of those things are things that only human beings can do, right? Like things like creativity and decision making, problem solving, all these things. These are things that really only human beings can do. Machines can't really do those things very well. And in fact, I recently was listening to a certain scholar talk about artificial intelligence, AI. And one of the things he said that was very interesting is that actually AI is not very good at multitasking. AI technologies, machines, they don't do multitasking. So they're very good at doing single operations, right? So you ask the AI to do one thing, it does it very well, but it can't do anything else. And so this is one of the great limitations of AI. And this particular expert wasn't really sure whether that would even improve, whether they would have the technology to make AI better at multitasking. Okay, so that's a big limitation that that of course human beings are very good at doing those kind of things. So there's a lot of things that AI and all these digital technologies, IR 4.0, cannot do that human beings have to do. Okay, so the European Youth Forum, they put out this report about about IR 4.0, And they mentioned four things, four areas, four intelligences really, that young people need to be very good at in order to thrive in IR 4.0. Okay. The first one is civic intelligence. Okay. So the capacity to understand the values and responsibilities that accompany responsible citizenship. Okay. And this relates to digital literacy and citizenship education training. Okay. Via proven modes of experiential learning. Okay. So because most of our world now is online and our the way we interact with other people is online. Okay, so young people need to have a strong sense of digital literacy. Okay, what does it mean to be a good online citizen? Right. So how do we talk to each other online? Right. How do we work ethically online? Okay. How can we get involved in sort of positive types of they can be issues, they can be initiatives, okay, online. Okay, so we have to have a good sense of civic intelligence. All right, what does it mean to be a good online citizen? Okay, do you guys know what digital literacy means? What is digital literacy? What does digital literacy refer to? Who can tell me? Anybody other than Hanim? Sorry, Hanim, I have to try and get some others to contribute. Anybody? Digital literacy. Have you heard of this term before?
The knowledge about digital.
Okay, thanks, Amir. Yeah, it's sort of a basic working knowledge of digital technologies, okay? And how to use them appropriately, how to use them appropriately, okay? So young people have to have this sense of civic intelligence, especially in relation to the online and digital world, okay? So this is the first area that young people have to understand. So when you guys are getting ready to go out into the world of work, since much of what you're going to do is a lot of it's going to be online, of course, you have to have a digital literacy, right? And you have to know what it means to operate online in a way that's respectful, that's according to the law, right? And that shows that you're a good citizen. The second one is emotional intelligence, okay? And we saw that also in the list of 10 skills before, right? And emotional intelligence is the capacity to be aware of, to control and to express one's own emotions, and to handle interpersonal relationships judiciously and empathetically. Okay? Anybody know what empathetically means? What is empathy? What is empathy? Who can tell me?
The ability to put ourselves in someone's shoe, to feel what they feel.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. To be able to put yourself in someone else's shoes and to feel what they're feeling, to understand what they're going through, and to really have care and concern for that person. Okay, so emotional intelligence is a very important skill to have in the coming IR 4.0. Why? Well, the ability to think critically about oneself and relationships with others is needed to navigate the disorienting influence of computational propaganda, disinformation, harassment, radicalization. So basically, when you go into the online world, or the world of 4.0, again, much of it is online, and there's all kinds of things going on online. Okay, so as you know, there's a lot of people tell a lot of lies. They spread a lot of rumors. There's a lot of that goes on online. Okay, so how do you navigate all that stuff, right? How do you know, for example, if you get a WhatsApp about something, how do you know whether it's true or not? How do you verify whether some information you get online is true or not? How do you guys do that? I'm just curious. This is also known as disinformation. How do you determine whether there's information is real or not?
Identify the sources.
Okay, Very good, Hazik. So first, know who the source. Yeah, exactly, Hazika. Thank you. So look for the source. That's the first thing. Who is it coming from, right? And let's say it's coming from. Oops, sorry. Let's say it's coming from somebody that. Okay, well, we don't really know who this person is, but it sounds so good. Like it sounds like it's true, or it sounds so believable, right? Do we believe it or do we not believe it? Okay, well, this is where we have to be judicious. We have to be careful, right? And then also we have to have concern for others, all right? Because again, you might end up spreading something that's going to damage somebody else. So we have to have a sense of empathy when we work online. It's very easy just to spread fitna about somebody. It's very easy just to forward a message that might end up harming somebody else. Okay. It's very easy to harass or bully people online, right? You're just sending messages, just click, 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 you know. But we have to develop that emotional intelligence to know when it's right to do it and when it's not right to do it. Okay. When we are getting information that's really important or whether we're just going to end up harming other people. Okay, so this type of emotional intelligence is really critical to develop. Okay, so we need to focus on that. The third one is physical intelligence. Okay, interesting. An awareness of how to preserve the interwoven health and well-being of the planet, oneself, and the community. Okay, so our own health as well as the health of the planet. Now, of course, we know environmentally there's a lot of problems, yeah? And so how does our health and the planet's health work together? So how young people must be competent about the influence of digital technology on their own physical health and how their digital behavior affects the planet. Okay. So if you're sitting around on the couch all day looking at Facebook or Instagram, you're not really doing anything that's good for your health, right? That's going to have negative effect on your health. Okay. Or if you're online too much, it might affect your psychological health, right? Your mental health, right? That's another thing. And we know that during this pandemic, we know studies have shown that young people are experiencing a lot of mental health issues during this pandemic, okay? So we need to, and you need to, as young people, understand how, right? Being involved in the digital world can affect your health, and then how it can also affect the planet. Okay, how can it affect the environment? All right. So this is called physical intelligence. All right, and the last one that the European Youth Forum emphasizes is creative intelligence. Okay, so developing the capacity for imagination and originality. Okay, so policymakers, parents, and youth must invest in systems that encourage alternative ways of knowing the world. Okay, so learning about the arts, for example, humanities, and the do-it-yourself, DIY community. Okay, so the better that young people are familiar with the arts, this is why I mentioned about art before, right? Because to develop creativity, there's no better way than to be involved in arts, right? In artistic endeavors, any kind of art, all right? And the humanities, okay, like reading, reading literature, whether it's local literature, it's Western literature, but reading and getting involved in the humanities, okay, poetry and literature and all these things, right? As well as the do-it-yourself kind of thing. So nowadays, a lot of people, especially young people, they like to go online, okay, watch a YouTube video and then do something themselves. This is actually one way of developing creative intelligence, learning how to do things oneself, right? Building your capacity for imagination and originality, okay? So you can create things on your own. This is of critical intelligence for IR 4.0. All right. So how are we going to get these four intelligences? How are we going to build them up? That's the question. How are young people going to get stronger and expand their intelligences? Okay. Now, the last one before we take a break is the ethical dilemma of IR 4.0. Okay, so there's a lot of ethical issues that come with IR 4.0. Okay, so let's just look at some of these quickly. Okay, so there's risks to digital rights. Okay, so for example, if you are, you develop some sort of new technology or new website or something, of course, there's always the issue of digital rights. Okay, so you have to understand, we have to understand all these issues related to digital rights. Okay. We have to understand that there's a lot of high-powered propaganda tools out there. Okay, so what is propaganda? Who can tell me? Who understands? What do you understand by this word propaganda? Anybody know? You can go and look it up right now if you want, and then share the answer with us. Usually when we have the class on campus, face-to-face, I let students do their own search for definitions on their own in class, and then they share them. So maybe you can go and look and find out what does the word propaganda mean, and then share it with the class. Who would like to share it? Yeah, bias. Okay, Hazika, bias. It's related to propaganda. Sure. Yeah, Hydra.
Agenda.
Yeah, having an agenda. Right. Yeah. So it's sort of like, yeah. So for example, a political party wants to, they want you to see an issue or to understand an issue from their perspective, right? They may put out some information that's not exactly true, or maybe it's half true, right? But because they want you to understand the issue a certain way, that's propaganda. You know, it's not really lying, but it's coloring the issue or pitching the issue or presenting the issue in a certain light that favors them. You know, so it can be outright lies, it can be outright, you know, just false, or it can be sort of a mixture of true and falsehood to get you to follow a certain agenda. So yeah, very good, Hyro. And definitely, yeah, it's biased. Okay, so in the digital world, there's all kinds of high-powered propaganda tools, right? So we get sent all this propaganda all the time, right? And so we have to know how to navigate it. Okay, again, where does the information come from, and how do we know if it's true or not? These are the questions. And now there's all these new digital social movements. You know, you get messages all the time. They want you to contribute money. They want you to contribute their time to all these different social movements. Tons, right? Every day we get tons of these, you know, these kinds of things. So we have to know which of these social movements are legitimate and which ones are not. Okay, which ones are, again, part of a propaganda effort, or which ones are real, right? And then threats to our transparency and accountability. Okay, so, you know, sometimes online people are not transparent, right? And people don't take accountability for what they do. So you go online and people make comments, right? They make comments about certain issues or things, but they don't really share their name. They just put things out there, you know. And so that's a lack of accountability. If you're going to say something and take a stand on an issue, for example, it's best, of course, that you take ownership for it, right? You say, this is from me, or I'm the one that's saying this. But nowadays, a lot of people, they just put out information or comments, and they don't use their name. So there's a lack of transparency. That's a big problem. That's an ethical problem. Okay, so we have to avoid that. Innovation, the last one is innovations that take us beyond the level of humanity. Okay, innovations that take us beyond the level of humanity. What does that mean? Well, here's an example. Okay, here's a video. This is the CEO of Google, and he's going to share with you, or with us, one of their latest AI inventions. Okay, so just have a look. Let's just watch this for a few minutes. Have a look.
The progress with the assistant. As I said earlier, our vision for our assistant is to help you get things done. It turns out a big part of getting things done is making a phone call. You may want to get an oil change schedule, maybe call a plumber in the middle of the week, or even schedule a haircut appointment. You know, we are working hard to help users through those moments. We want to connect users to businesses in a good way. Businesses actually rely a lot on this, but even in the US, 60% of small businesses don't have an online booking system set up. We think AI can help with this problem. So let's go back to this example. Let's say you want to ask Google to make you a haircut appointment on Tuesday between 10 and noon. What happens is the Google Assistant makes the call seamlessly in the background for you. So what you're going to hear is the Google Assistant actually calling a real salon to schedule the appointment for you. Let's listen.
So how can I help you? Hi, I'm calling to book a women's haircut for a client. I'm looking for something on May 3rd. Sure, give me 1 second. Mm-hmm. Sure, what time are you looking for around? At 12 p.m. We do not have a 12 p.m. available. The closest we have to that is a 1:15. Do you have anything between 10 a.m. and 12 p.m.? Depending on what service she would like. What service is she looking for? Just a woman's haircut for now. Okay, we have at 10 o'clock. 10 a.m. is fine. Okay, what's her first name? The first name is Lisa. Okay, perfect. So I will see Lisa at 10 o'clock on May 3rd. Okay, great. Thanks. Great. Have a great day. Bye.
That was a real call you just heard. The amazing thing is the assistant can actually understand the nuances of conversation. We've been working on this technology for many years. It's called Google Duplex. It brings together all our investments over the years in natural language understanding, deep learning, text-to-speech. By the way, when we are done, the assistant can give you a confirmation notification saying your appointment has been taken care of. Let me give you another example. Let's say you want to call a restaurant, but maybe it's a small restaurant which is not easily available to book online. The call actually goes a bit differently than expected. So take a listen.
See how may I hear you?
Hi, I'd like to reserve a table for Wednesday the 7th.
For 7 people?
It's for 4 people.
4 people? When? Today?
Next
Tonight?
Wednesday at 6 p.m.
Oh, actually, we leave here for like after like 5 people. For 4 people, you can come.
How long is the wait usually to be seated?
For when tomorrow or weekday or?
For next Wednesday, the 7th.
Oh no, it's not too busy. You can come for 4 people, okay?
Oh, I gotcha. Thanks.
Bye bye.
Again, that was a real call. We have many of these examples where the calls quite don't go as expected, but the assistant understands the context, the nuance. It knew to ask for wait times in this case and handle the interaction gracefully. Look,
Okay. Did you all catch that?
the progress with the assistant.
Yes.
Sorry. Got this. Oh, there it is. Okay. Okay, so that's it. So how does that, what you just saw and heard, this technology of the AI assistant, you know, making appointments and stuff, it's so real. It sounds like a real person, right? So, but if you're on the other end of that call, ethically, how do you feel? Do you feel, and if you found out, for example, that you were just talking to a robot, you know, you were just talking to a machine, there's certain ethical, perhaps ethical issues related to that. Okay, so these are the things that you know, you have to be able to think about. You have to be able to navigate. Okay, so the ethical dimensions of IR 4.0 are very serious. Okay, as I just showed in the previous slide. All right, so that's just one of them. Okay, so of course the technology is impressive. It's very impressive, but it does of course raise certain ethical concerns. Right, and so we have to be aware of those ethical concerns. That's part of IR 4.0. And so young people, it's not just about learning technology, it's also about learning how to use technology in a way that's appropriate, in a way that's ethical, and in a way that's not going to harm other people. Okay, so that's a very important part of IR 4.0. Okay, so any questions about anything that we just heard, that we just saw? No, nothing at all. Okay, you guys are very quiet today. Okay, so let's why don't we take just a couple minute break? Just take 5 minutes break, and then we're going to come back and do our quick exercise, and then I'll let you go. Okay, let's just take 5 minutes, yeah?
Okay, Prof.
All right. Okay, just a reminder to everyone, if you haven't done it yet, go ahead and do the attendance for today, because I noticed on my list here, several of you haven't checked in yet, signed in yet, like Shamimi, Irma, Karishma, Zarfan, Ishak. It's still showing red, so that means you haven't signed in yet, okay? And there may be others here. Okay, just to remind everyone. Okay, remember, go to the you have to go to the top of the class page, and then if you scroll down, you'll see the link for Wednesday class. So click on that, and then it should record. Okay, so what I want to do now is, okay, so you can see that. Can you see my screen, the Pucha Blast?
Yes.
Okay. So what I want you to do now, what I want you guys to do now is on your own. You don't have to write. There's no Padlet or anything. I just want you to write yourself. Just write on your own. Of these 10 skills that I showed earlier in the class, I want you to think and reflect in terms of yourself. Which of these skills and competencies, or whatever you want to call them, related to IR 4.0, are you weakest in? Okay, you personally. Which ones do you think you're weakest in? Okay, so pick maybe the 2 or 3 that you feel you are the less, the less strong and the weakest in, that you need more improvement in. And then the second question in relation to that is, what kind of education or experiences do you think you need to improve in these areas? All right, and that can be anything. I don't mean education here formally. I mean any kind of education, any kind of experience that you think you need to improve in those areas. All right, so just think, reflect on it a little bit, and then just jot down your answers. And then I'm just going to go around and just see what people think. Okay, I'll call on you. So take about 5 or 7 minutes to do that. All right, go ahead. Okay. Were you guys able to do that, or do you need more time? Two more minutes. Okay, I'm here. Okay, take a couple more minutes.
Raf, sorry, but I didn't submit my attendance before this.
Uh-huh. You can still do it, I think.
No.
No, it won't let you.
Yeah.
What
For
does it
the
say?
first class cannot take prof. Me also, I like Hanim. I thought we only have to take at the dashboard. So I didn't open the link.
What do you mean, for this class today or for the previous class?
For the previous class.
Oh, don't worry about the previous class. Actually, the previous class, I had the settings all wrong. Don't worry about the previous class. Just do it today.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah, we're still learning how to do some of these things in Putra Blast, so sometimes they don't work very good. Okay, are we ready to, who would like to present? Who would like to share your answers? Anyone? Can I get a volunteer, please? Or would you like me to call on someone? Any volunteers?
Can I share?
Yes, please, go ahead.
So for the first question, which skills or competence related to IR 4.0 success are you weakest in?
Yeah.
So as for me, I think the one that I like lacking is in the cognitive flexibility, I think. So basically I search what does the cognitive flexibility means. So
Okay.
it means that the ability to change what you are thinking about, how you are thinking about it, and even what you think about it.
Okay.
So I think why I lack in this skill is that in order to change what are my perspective or what are my mindsets, I need someone like the one that the particular person has to persuade me in order to change my perspective. Like if I stick to that mindset, it quite hard for me to like hard. I just need some uh what we call it. I think like some confirmation why is it like that,
Okay. All
because
right.
yeah, something like that. So for the second question, what kind of education and experiences do you think you need to improve in these areas? Basically, I just wanted to share another thing that related to this class is that the question before this, like does does it promote the 2020 skills by the time for the previous question for the high school student when they are
Yeah.
graduating, does all these skills are promoted to them?
Yeah.
So relating to the creativity skills, from my personal point of view, I think there are like they surely have some action taken in order to be prepared with the fourth industrial revolution. But
Okay.
I would say that it is still lacking and not done thoroughly. Like it is not done comprehensively.
Yeah, yeah.
So, for instance, um, I'm not sure if everyone know or not, but basically there are some schools that are chosen to be that are selected
Yeah,
to be Apple distinguished schools in Malaysia.
yeah.
So basically, my high school is one of them. So what we do during our high school is that we learn in a very, like in a very creative way lah, I would say, because we are allowed to bring our iPads to school in order to instill creativity in students. Not only that, when being in Apple distinguished schools, we have other tasks that related to Apple itself. For example, we have to do assessment, or even something that uh, specific tasks before we are graduating. It's like similar
Project.
to, yeah, project. If you're not doing it, then it could um, result in fail and something like that. It's just like official task, even
Okay.
though it's just an external task for us. So I think that's why I would say that there's some action taken in order to promote, to instill all these skills, but it is not done comprehensively.
I see. Okay, Mimi, thank you very much for that contribution. So,
All right.
can you just clarify for me, how does you mentioned about your school allowing you to bring your iPads and stuff? How does that stimulate creativity, you think?
Because like I would say for Form 1, Form 2, and Form 3, most of the time we will, like most of the class, the teachers will introduce us what kind of apps that we can use for their tasks. Because basically the teachers themselves, they have, like course that they should take in order um, to introduce to the students. But for the Form 4 and Form 5 students, the it's like we kami like conduct the activities macam tak se-active the lower form, because we have to we have to focus on our SPM also.
Right. Okay. Okay. So in conducting those activities, do the teachers give you any room or any like freedom to choose what you want to study or what you want to do for your project, or do they tell you what you have to do?
No, it just based on ourselves, like
You get to
freely to
you
choose
get to
what you
choose.
want to do.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. All
So
right.
basically, like I would say, like for example, my batchmate task is that one of them, maybe they do vlogging, like the YouTube.
Uh-huh.
So some of
Right.
them make books, something like that.
I see. Okay, okay. All right. Interesting. Very interesting. Thank you. Thank you very much, Shamimi, for that. Your comment about cognitive flexibility is very interesting. And this is definitely one area where students have a hard time, especially youth in Malaysia. And like you mentioned, cognitive flexibility is being able to see, for example, a topic or an issue from multiple perspectives, right? Appreciating it. So, right. So, take an issue, any kind of issue that is affecting society, can you look at that and understand that issue from different perspectives, right? So, for example, even IR 4.0, right? There's some people that say it's good for the country and good for the economy. There's others that say it's not, right? So, can you appreciate both of those perspectives? You may have your own perspective and say, "Oh, I definitely think it's good for the country because it's about IT and it's about digital technology and it's going to make us more developed and blah, blah. That may be one opinion or one perspective on it, but can you appreciate the other side? And so, like, for example, this is what people that do debate, you know, for those, maybe there's some of you in the class who did debate when you were in secondary school, right? But that's the kind of thing that debate trains you for. It trains you to take an issue and then look at it from different perspectives and try to appreciate both of those perspectives on things. And that really is what teaches you cognitive flexibility. So you can understand things from multiple perspectives and why people have different perspectives on those things. And this is what allows us cognitively to expand our sort of our ways of thinking. Okay. So it's important, you know, to really try to understand not only the different views that people have, but why they have those views. And that can really help us to develop that cognitive flexibility. Okay. So in terms of the second question, what kind of education, I don't necessarily mean there what kind of like formal education, like what kind of school, what does school have to do, you know, to help you to develop these skills? That's not necessarily what I mean. It could be like in your case, you mentioned about your school and how they're doing it. That's good. But it doesn't have to be necessarily formal school. It could be, you know, some kind of activity or experience you're involved in outside of school that helps you to develop these skills. Okay. So thank you very much. Okay. So who'd like to go next? Who would like to volunteer next? What is your answer to the questions? Anyone? Any volunteers? How about Florence? Florence, would you like to share your answers? Is Florence still here? Are you here, Florence? Has she left? Okay, I don't know if she's here. Maybe Shafika, would you like to share, Shafika? Shafika, are you there? Okay.
Doctor, sorry, actually, during you talk about this question, I'm not here clearly because my internet is unstable.
Oh, okay, all right, okay. So you weren't able to do the exercise?
Yes, Doctor, sorry, apa dia?
You didn't do the exercise? You didn't answer the question? Tak jawab soalan ni.
I just answer question number 2 because I think number 1 can no need to answer. Sorry,
Oh,
Doctor.
okay. So what was your answer to number 2? But I think off the top of your head, Sanang, you can just, which skill or competency do you think you're weakest in? From those 10 that are listed there.
This question number 2 is relate to number 1 ke, Doctor?
Question number 3. There's no question number 3.
Number 2. Relate to number 1.
Yeah. So so the first question is, which of those 10 skills do you think you're weakest in? And then the second one is, what kind of education or experiences do you need to improve in that skill? So you said you answered number 2, but you didn't answer number 1. Is that right? Did you say that?
Critical thinking, maybe?
Critical thinking. Okay. All right. And were you able to answer number 2 or no? So what kind of education? Yeah. Oh no, you didn't answer it?
I not answer.
Oh,
sorry, Doctor.
All right. Who else? Anyone else like to answer? Ashraf, did you get an answer for us? Ashraf?
For the number 1.
For both. Were you able to answer the questions?
For me, which skill related to IR success are you weakest is I think complex problem solving.
Problem solving.
Mm-mm.
Okay, all right. Yeah, so I think a lot of us need to improve on complex problem solving. It's a difficult skill, competency to really to get good at. So what kind of educational experiences do you think can help you with that?
Education. Maybe problem solving management.
Okay, and where can you get that kind of those kind of experiences or that kind of education?
Go to the program that provide from
Go to
the
a
other
program.
for the from other source.
Okay, are there really programs out there that teach you how to do complex problem solving?
Maybe yes, in seminar like that.
Seminar. So you can do problem solving in a seminar. I don't know if problem solving is the kind of skill you can learn in a seminar. I would think that it's something more experiential, right? So sort of like you have to actually experience problems and then work with others in solving those problems. Okay. Of course, there may be some techniques you can learn, like to identify problems and then to break up the problems. There may be strategies or techniques, but I think it's a very experiential kind of thing. To learn how to solve problems, you really have to solve problems. All right. So, for example, like this is where young people, youth who are involved in different types of organizations, they get to actually practice these skills. Like, you join a youth association, right? And they're out in the community and they're trying to help flood victims, for example, right? I mean, helping flood victims that's a really big problem, right? And so they're out there and because they're involved in that kind of work, they learn through experience on how to solve these different types of complex problems, right? And then if they're able to work closely with adults to do that, they can learn from the adults on how to actually attack and address these problems, okay? So something like complex problem solving, I think is something that you really need to learn experientially. You have to actually do it. So this is one of the reasons why we often say the youth development sector is very good in helping young people prepare for IR 4.0 because they can get involved in these kinds of activities and really learn these skills from firsthand experience. All right. Complex problem solving, you're not going to learn by just learning theory. Sitting in a seminar and learning theory, you're not going to really learn how to solve problems that way. You may learn some techniques or some strategies, but you're not going to really be able to do it until you actually solve problems. Okay, so, but yeah, that is definitely a skill that we all have to improve in. So what do you think about that, Ashraf?
Yes, I think to compare in problem solving, we need to face the experience.
Yeah, experience. So, I mean, that's why it's good that, when you guys, especially for you, when you think about your education and preparing for the world of work, don't think of just get education in terms of sitting in classes like this at UPM. Get involved in, university. The university has many different types of co-curricular programs and activities. Get involved with NGOs, all right? Because that's where you're going to learn a lot of these 4.0 IR 4.0 skills. All right, you're not gonna get a lot of these in the classroom per se, but what you do outside the classroom is where you get the experience, and then you can apply what you learn in the classroom. You can apply that in the real world, and this is where you really get good at developing these skills: is taking theory and then applying it in the real world through experience. Yeah, that's the best way to really develop all these different skills. Okay. So does that make sense, Ashraf? Ashraf, you still there? Yeah, so I mean, even like for those of you who are involved in PASUMA, you're involved in putting on programs. There's lots of problems that you have to work through when you put on programs, and I'm sure Hanim can tell us about that. And so that's experiential learning. That's a really important way of learning how to do things like problem solving. A lot of these 10 skills you get just by being involved in PASUMA's activities and being involved in all the decision making that goes on and putting on different types of programs. Okay, so that's why it's very important part of your education to be involved in all those extracurricular and co-curricular activities. Okay, so think about education more broadly. Yeah, think about it more broadly, not just formal education, classroom education. Education is much bigger than just what you get in a classroom. Okay. All right. Are there any questions before we say adios, say bye-bye? Any questions? Okay. So, yeah, so I know that a lot of people don't like being called on in class. But you know, if I don't get you to participate voluntarily, I'm going to have to resort to calling on you. So I apologize if anyone was uncomfortable with that, but that is the way I will be conducting the class from now on. Okay, so just so you're aware. Okay, so tomorrow we will, inshallah, continue with our discussion on assignment 2. Okay, so we'll be dealing more with assignment 2 and some of the things that you need to learn. Like last week we talked about interviewing, right? How to do good interviews to collect your data for your project. Tomorrow we might do something related to literature review. So how do you pull out the literature that you need to learn more about the program, the problem that you want to do for your assignment? Okay, so we'll be taking a look at that tomorrow, inshallah. Okay, so that's all for today, guys. Have a good day, and inshallah we'll see you again next time tomorrow.
Okay, Prof. Thank
Okay.
you.
All right.
Okay, Prof. Thank you.
Okay, Prof.
Thank you, Prof.
Oh, now I hear all your voices. Oh, okay. All right. See you guys. Assalamu alaikum.
Waalaikumsalam.